Okay, so here we go, the very first ever online lecture for AP Government with Mr. Robinson. Let's see. Alright, I think I'm doing it right. So, we're in the Congress unit. Today's notes, be sure do not write anything down that you already know. A lot of it is review. And we start with 4A.3, the Incumbency Advantage. We've already learned a lot about incumbency in class, so some of this will be review. Okay, we've talked about it before. The re-election rate in the House of Representatives is over 90%. In 2012, it was 91%. Remember, incumbency is when someone is running for a second time or more. It means they've already been in office. For the Senate, it is usually over 80%, and you see in 2012, it was exactly the same as the House, 91%. Very few seats are contested in the House. Most of them are quote-unquote safe seats. That just means that even though someone's running against that person, that the incumbent is very likely to win. Many people say that the result of this is that we have something of a permanent Congress, very little change in Congress. And this is a negative phrase, a permanent Congress. It's not going anywhere. The counter argument to a permanent Congress is that re-election rates take into account only those incumbents who run for re-election. Some people retire and the seats open up to new people, and those people do not count in the percentage. So this 91% does not count the people that retired and were replaced by new members. No matter what, it was going to be somebody new. Check out the U.S. House of Representatives re-election rates, 1964 to 2006. Wow. Very high chance of re-election. Okay, what are the advantages of incumbency? What allows someone to keep getting re-elected over and over again? Remember, we had an FRQ question all about this already, so it should really come pretty easy to you. The franking privilege. Franking is when congressmen can send mail free of charge, which basically gets their name out there and maybe even promotes them a little bit to their constituents. So Ken Calvert might send mail to the members of Riverside, California. They have staffers, and these staffers are in place, and they know how to run the office and maybe even help them campaign a little bit. Patronage, they've appointed some of their buddies into positions. They're intertwined in the system. They know how to play the game. Their name is recognized by the people. Ken Calvert, for instance, is our representative in Riverside. Could you name the guy that ran against him? Probably not, because you recognize the name of the one that keeps winning. And casework. Casework is, actually, I think it's on our next slide. So I'll get back to casework in a second. And incumbents are the ones that get a ton of money from special interest groups and PACs, all right? If you are a political action committee and you want to get your cause addressed, you are going to give money to an incumbent, because why would you want to give it to someone who has a 9% chance of winning? You're going to give the bulk of your money to an incumbent, even if ideologically they might not match what you believe. Better to spend your money on a winner than a loser. So casework. This is a word you need to be familiar with. No doubt you're going to see it on some FRQs. It's just a vocab word. It's probably on our vocab. Casework is activities of members of Congress that help constituents as individuals. An example would be, I believe there's a test question. An example would be calling up your congressman and asking for a very specific kind of assistance, like, my farm, I need a loan, is there a way that you can help me out in this specific area? And maybe a congressman could push something through. So casework is a way that a congressman helps somebody on an individual basis. Okay, this makes them popular. This makes them experienced. This makes them more likely to get reelected because they've done casework. for their local members. Look at them doing casework. All right, a special advantage for House members, not the Senate, but for the House, is gerrymandering. We've spent a lot of time in class talking about this as well. To understand gerrymandering, you need to understand reapportionment. The redistribution of 435 seats in the House on the basis of changes in state populations. What that means is as a state gets more and more people, the districts of that state need to be divided up differently. Remember, each district is supposed to represent kind of a close to equal amount of people. And if a whole bunch of people leave Riverside and move to Orange County, then we need to redraw our districts, and that's reapportionment. Reapportionment is, there's no bias in that term, that just means they're redrawing lines. Gerrymandering, of course, is redrawing those lines for a political gain. Alright, the number of reps in the House of Reps is determined by a state's population. A census is done every 10 years. They go door to door, they knock on your door, or you send in the mail, and you tell them how many people live there, and social security number, and whether you're a citizen or not, and answer a whole bunch of questions. It's done every 10 years, 2000, 2010, 2020, etc. And census will show population changes in the states. These changes must be reflected in the House. If a state gains a bunch of people, if a whole bunch of people move from Arizona to Nevada, then Nevada is going to get more reps. And they'll need to redraw some lines to make sure that this each district has a similar number of people. Same thing if a state loses seats. Michigan, a lot of people leaving Michigan, for example, losing seats. If a state has a change in the number of seats, its district boundaries must change. This is known as redistricting, and is usually carried out by the party in power of a state legislature. So who does this redrawing? Usually, it's a state legislature. All right, so like the legislature of California in Sacramento, they'll redraw the lines. It's a happy coincidence for Democrats that they're in control of the legislature in Sacramento, so it's very likely they're going to redraw the lines to favor the Democratic Party. So, state government drawing lines to favor this party in the national government. All right. Some states have an independent panel of judges or something to redraw the lines, but even that has opportunities for corruption. Check out some of these very gerrymandered districts. This is what you see when you Google most gerrymandered district. Look at that thing. So you would think if you're going to make a district, you'd just make a square. But somebody purposefully drew this so that maybe the Democrats or maybe the Republicans would win that district. Whichever party is in power in the state legislature. Wow, look at that one. Is that Miami? Where does the term gerrymandering come from? Just a fun fact, you don't need to write this down. The term comes from this guy Elbridge Gerry, who drew some lines back in the day in the 1800s to help certain people win. And they had such strange shapes that looked like salamanders, and people referred to them as gerrymanders. The party in power can get a majority of seats in the House by packing, drawing lines so that drawing district lines in such a way as to concentrate the opposing party in few districts. So throwing let's say you want the Democrats to win, you throw all the Republicans into one area and then break up Democrats into a whole bunch so they can maybe win 3 places and Republicans can only win 1, or vice versa. We played a game in class where you kind of did this on your paper. How about cracking? Drawing the district lines in such a way as to disperse the opposing party throughout the state and thus diluting them. So this is like put 3 Democrats with 2 Republicans, 3 Democrats with 2 Republicans, again and again and again, so that the Democrats keep winning, or vice versa. What are the effects of gerrymandering? The party in power tends to stay in power. Safe seats are created for incumbents. There's very little competition because it's very difficult for a challenger to win in such a kind of biased district. Very strangely, shape districts, and a majority minority districts are created by racial gerrymandering. And actually, I'm going to talk about this racial gerrymandering in a second. So the Supreme Court has looked at redistricting just a little bit. Districts need to be as close as possible in population to one another. So you can't have a district with 1 million people in it and a district with 100,000 people in it, because they would both get one representative in the House of Reps, and that's not fair. You can't have one person representing 1 million and one person representing 100,000. In the case Baker versus Carr in 1962, probably an association you want to make there, I would write this down. One man, one vote principle was applied to state legislative districts. So basically, farm areas prior to 1962 were having more of an impact. Like they had less people per representative than cities did. And this case said, no, you need to have a fairly equal number. So this kind of balanced out the power. So before, farm areas were overrepresented, and farm is rural, and after this there became more of a balance. I guess that applied to states. Westbury versus Sanders applied the same principle to the House. So this is state legislative, and then, but that's the bold one, appeared on a test at some point. And then this one is federal House. Even if the number of reps to which a state is entitled does not change, it redistricts anyway, because, as I said, if people move from Riverside to Orange County, they're not leaving the state, but Orange County might get a whole bunch of newer people, and we'll need to redraw the lines and swoop in and grab some of Orange County, because we do not want to have malapportionment, which is bad. Mal is bad. Bad apportionment. We need to make sure that the numbers are pretty balanced. District lines must be continuous. You can't have like group A over here and then it's like a circle and then come over here and there's group A. It needs to be connected. So you can have Riverside and Indio, okay, as separated, but you can have them all together if you draw a big swoopy line connecting the two. Racial gerrymandering is prohibited. This is one of the few kind of rules here with gerrymandering. You cannot use race as a determining factor in drawing lines. So you're not going to put all the white people together or the African Americans together, even if it's for good intentions, if that's what you're planning. No, you cannot consider race at all when drawing district lines. You cannot try to dilute the voting rights of racial minorities, which is probably why you'd be considering race when you're gerrymandering. And communities of interest may be kept intact. Hey, that's it for gerrymandering. I'm going to stop so that I don't run out of time, because I'm not sure if there's a limit on these things. I'll be right back. If I have to split this in two, make sure you watch the second video.